American Forestry Service and the Park Service and all these other agencies from doing these controlled burns in these forested areas or these wildland areas, doing controlled burns. That's what gets rid of the shrubbery and the fuel that fuels these fires. So instead of smart people wanting to do what God told us to do, that is, subdue the land, put it under your rule, and take dominion over it. And so the Forestry Service, I'm a big fan of conservation. The Missouri Conservation Department, I know it's a government entity, but they have done a good job. When I was a boy, the deer population in Missouri was so low that you could get a buck tag for deer season, and if you were one of the lucky selected few, you could get a doe tag. But very, very few people got a tag to be able to kill a doe deer in the state of Missouri. And the Conservation Department has done so well that now they give you 1 buck permit, and in most counties, not all, but in most counties in Missouri, you can get unlimited doe tags. Why? Because the Conservation Department did its job, and they did it well. And you had all of these people, and I know they work for the government, but they're not all bad and they're not all idiots. They were saying, we got to burn this stuff every now and then because it builds up and it's a danger. So the environmentalists don't let them do that because they found a snail hiding under a shrub somewhere, and they said, that's his home. You're going to burn his home down. Imagine how the snail feels. He's sad. See, he's sad. He's sad. So they enact all these stupid laws where they can't do what needs to be done, and all this fuel builds up, and that's what killed those firemen. We're going to burn this country down one way or the other. Whether it's the Muslims, the Sharia law, or the Sodomites. Jerry Brown, past and present governor of the state of California, state of insanity, signs trans student protection bill. Governor Jerry Brown signed into law groundbreaking bill expanding anti-discrimination protections for transgender students in public and elementary and secondary schools, mandating that schools respect the gender identity of trans students by allowing them equal access to the sports teams, programs, facilities associated with their gender. And it's like I said, in those of you living in California, if I were you and I were smart, I would pull my kids out of the public school in a heartbeat. Because some boy is fixing to walk in on your daughter in the bathroom. And if your daughter complains or says anything about it, he's not going to get in trouble. Your daughter's going to get in trouble. And you're going to be down there at that school raising Cain. And they're going to have you listed as a troublemaker and a homophobe and breaking the law because you couldn't let your daughter go to the bathroom in peace. Assembly Bill 1266 is the first of its kind nationwide and expands upon existing anti-discrimination protections to help schools implement policies that support and affirm transgendered students. It builds upon national momentum to respect trans students, including a ruling earlier this year from the Colorado Civil Rights Division determining that a trans first grader must be allowed access to the girls' bathroom at her elementary school near Colorado Springs. California's new law will take effect January 1st, according to the Bay Area Reporter. This is a quote, while many California school children are already protected by policies in some of our biggest school districts, other districts don't seem to understand that transgender students should have equal access to all programs and facilities, said Assemblyman Tom Amaniano, a gay Democrat from San Francisco, introduced the bill. The gender identity of these kids needs to be respected, and they shouldn't have to sue to make it happen. The bill passed both the state and Senate Assembly last month despite opposition from right-wing and religious groups that claimed the legislation would allow boys to shower with girls and lead to students randomly using whatever bathroom they felt like on a given day. Hey, guys, you remember high school, don't you? So, would you put it past, I'm not saying you, not me, but some of the guys we went to high school with, I wouldn't put it past them to start wearing a dress at school for about a week just so they could go into the girls' shower room after PE. I wouldn't put it past them. And it's going to happen, and you can't do a thing about it. It's not going to stop until we burn the nation to the ground. It's not going to stop until that happens. This was from theadvocate.com. Apparently it's a gay rights website, and they had an article listed in connection with this one that I thought was kind of funny. It's called Golden Age of Nile, Hercules, the bisexual demigod. Hercules has been the icon of alpha masculinity for centuries. Did you know about his gay love life? Dwayne Johnson and somebody else have Hercules films coming out next year in the spring and summer, respectively. Sure seems like a long time to wait. So to kill some time, and until then, we thought we'd dig into the myth and love life, the most famous alpha male of all time. And they're both playing Hercules. And Hercules, along with these others, is the bigendered androgynous god. The male-female. The boy-girl. The man-woman. And let me just say this. And I've run into these people before, and I challenged them to go to the Word of God, and it stunned and amazed me when I got challenged. I don't remember where it was, but somebody at a Club O Prophecy meeting that I was at, because I mentioned from the Da Vinci Code this idea that God, you know, the God that you and I serve from the King James Bible, this idea that God that you and I believe in was both male and female. And I built it up, and I led it up to this concept of Baphomet to try to teach them that's the God that's both male and female. And I said it is an abomination to consider our God as a woman and a man at the same time. And I got shouted out by a lady in that meeting. She didn't like what I said. She said, he is too. She is, or something like that. I said, no, it's not. You know what it was? She was ticked off that I exposed Kenneth Copeland because of his quote teaching everybody that God was both male and female at the same time. And I exposed that as heresy and abomination, and she got ticked off that I named Kenneth Copeland's name. It made her mad. You never know when Jezebel's sitting in the crowd until you really make her mad. And then she's not going to keep her mouth shut. Obamacare provision. Forced home inspections. I ran into stuff like this years ago doing research in some of the school programs that were coming out. School programs like Parents as Teachers and all this stuff. The Parents as Teachers program in the state of Missouri actually was more about the teachers as parents. And it set up situations where social workers and investigators would go visit the home of some of these students because they were at risk for something. At risk for something. And even back then, some of these school social workers, they were trained to go and look around at the house and try to see what was going on in that house. And they had a list of criteria for students that would be at risk for something. And it was, are the parents, are they overweight? Are those parents have an eating problem? Does one of the parents smoke cigarettes? That could be a sign of an at-risk child. What were they watching on television when you came to the house? They were teaching them to go snooping around through these people's houses because these children were potentially in harm's way, being at risk for something. And I guess all this information gets fed to the social services and this and that and the other. According to an Obamacare provision, millions of Americans will be targeted. The Health and Human Services website states that your family will be targeted if you fall under the high-risk category shown. Families, number one, families where mom is not yet 21. That's a high risk for something. Families where someone is a tobacco user. See? High risk for something. You know what? In my younger days, when I was a little boy, my mom was a tobacco user. And my mom was a tremendous mother. Great woman. To this day, she is one of my best friends. My mom and I are close. I cannot imagine being yanked out of my house because I was at risk for something. Because my mom struggled with cigarettes early on. When she started coming to church here at Bethel in 1974, it took her a few years for God to finally take those away from her, and He did. She didn't do it on her own. God did it for her. Families with individuals who are serving or formerly served in the armed forces, including such families that have members of the armed forces who have had multiple deployments outside the United States. So, you know, that's pretty good. United States of America sends these boys over to do these disgusting things over there that some of them probably are not right. They come back with their head messed up. And now we're going to treat them bad and think their families are at risk. There is families where children have low student achievement, developmental delays, or disabilities. There's no reference to Medicaid being the determinant for a family to be eligible. In 2011, the Health and Human Services announced $224 million to be given to support evidence-based home visiting programs to, quote, help parents and children. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help you. Individuals from the state will implement these leveraging strategies to enhance program sustainability. Constitutional attorney and author Kent Masterson Brown states this is not a voluntary program. The eligible entity receiving the grant for performing the home visits is to identify the individuals to be visited and intervene so as to meet the improvement benchmarks. A homeschooling family, for instance, may be subject to intervention. Get ready, guys. Get ready. We fought them with the Department of Education. We fought against the NEA, the National Teachers Education Association. We fought against the teachers' unions. I had friends years ago that went to Jefferson City every congressional session because they said, Mike, every time